Hello everybody, thanks for coming back to my channel. Welcome back everybody. Hey, for anybody that hasn't noticed, things are getting kind of weird out there in the world right now. A little scary, a little sketchy. Things could get squirrely, so I know everybody's not an advocate of firearms, things of that nature, but I thought I'd take a little time real quick to show you how to still feed yourself if you had to in a situation where you had to do some hunting. Now, I'm not a hunter, never even been hunting. I love my animals, but I also need to eat. So if it came to that, I want to know how to do that. So I thought I'd take a little time out to go ahead and show you how to make a really cheap recurve bow that you can hunt you some game with, or even protect yourself if you had to. So let's jump right into it. In this video, I'm going to show you how these 4 simple things can save your life. Piece of PVC, wooden dowel rod, some duct tape, and some paracord. So I've probably got less than $6 invested in these materials here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make ourselves a recurve bow. That'll be this Schedule 40 PVC, dowel rod to make the arrow out of, paracord to make the string out of, and some duct tape to make the fins on the arrow. Let me show you how this is going to work. To start this process off, I needed to make a jig. So the way I made this jig is I took a piece of 1x2 and I made one tapered piece that I used as a stencil to make all 4 of them, so they're all the same. And what this jig is going to do is allow us to start shaping this recurve bow, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I made my jig 56 inches long. So if you want to mimic this exact size, you can. So the jig's 56 inches long, and I used a 1x2 in the middle. So these tapered pieces are 25 and 1/8 inch long, all 4 of them. And then the gap I left in the middle is, let me see here, 5 7/8 gap, which will be for a different part of this template to be able to shape the handle on the recurve bow. So I cut me a piece of this Schedule 40 PVC 56 inches long, the same length of the jig, and just set it in the jig. The tools we're going to need is a heat gun, some C-clamps, and other parts that we're going to use for the jig, which are going to be pressure plates, basically, essentially, where we're going to put pressure on when we're shaping this. All right, let's get started. The very first step we need to do in this process is we need to heat this Schedule 40 PVC pipe up using the heating gun in order to make it pliable so that we can start shaping it. You don't want to overheat it too much in any one spot. You'll burn it through. We just want to keep us a consistent heat going back and forth. And don't try to heat the whole pipe up at once. You're going to be covering too much ground, and it'll start cooling on one spot before you get to the other spot, or it'll start making it misshape. So we're only going to heat one section at a time. So let's get started on that. And don't forget to turn it as you're heating it, so you're heating it from all sides. Now that we're getting this softened up so that it's pliable, we can start squeezing it down, shaping it. Still a little hard right there. Got a little bit more heating to do. And then we'll start shaping this. And then what we're going to do here is, after I get it soft enough, I'm going to be putting this on here, squeezing it down with the C-clamps, and letting this PVC, the Schedule 40 PVC, cool back down so it can retake shape hard. And this particular PVC pipe that I'm using is 3/4 inch. I've made one of these with a little bit bigger PVC. I've made several of these, but I made one with bigger PVC, and it definitely has more draw on it, so you'd be able to hunt larger game with it. But this is shapes a little bit quicker, doesn't take as long to heat up and shape, so I preferred to do this one for the video, but it's the exact same concept, whichever size you're going to make. Alright, let's see here. I think we're about ready to go. Make sure that's at the end and in the center here. And let's just take this. Move these clamps out the way. Should have had this already in position. Let me warm this up just a little bit more again. My apologies. All right, round two. Again, smart man would have already had these clamps ready to make it faster, but nonetheless, let's do this. A little bit more heat in there for my lack of preparedness. You guys are smarter than me, so you will have probably already figured that out on your own. Doggies, 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 calm down. Oh, and being off grid, have a dog. For sure. Have a dog. You need a dog. Everyone needs a dog. Okay, so now we've got this pinched down as tight as it'll get on this end, and it'll start gradually getting bigger as it tapers toward the center here. And then after that cools, holds shape, we'll do the same thing on this end here. And then we'll move on. Now we've got this side pressed out. Let's cool back down and harden. Start giving this our shape here. The other side pressed, and then start doing some smoothing in on it. Let's do the same thing over here. All right, we're about there now. So the next step here is we're going to come down a few inches on either side. We're going to change direction, and we're going to shape this down flat the other way so that we can go ahead and get ready to get notches in it for that paracord to go into to each side before we start shaping the first curve in each end of this bow to be able to get our recurve in it as we pull it back. So what I did is I measured back 3 inches from each end and put a line across it and brace this down because I'm going to heat just this portion. I don't want the other flat portion to start swelling back out. So just so I can heat this portion because it'll start taking its circle shape again, and then I am going to press it the opposite direction so we can start getting it set up for the paracord to go on that. You can see how it's opening back up as it gets softened. So now we flatten it out the other direction on the very end here. We'll let that cool, and we'll do the same thing with the other end. And here's where we stand as of right now. So our next move is going to be rounding off each end of this bow and notching it out for the paracord. So I just freehanded my mark on this side. When I cut that out, I'll use that little corner piece as the template for the other side to get the curves the same. Now we have our two ends rounded off. And we'll put some notches, some angled notches in the back that the paracord will recess in. I came in 1 inch from the side and a 1/2 inch down diagonal mark that I'm going to cut out, make a groove for that paracord. And I did the same thing on the opposing end. All right, now we've got notches cut out of each end where the paracord will go in. And we'll move on to the next step. Now that we've got the bow tapered down, flattened out, we've got our ends flattened the opposite direction and rounded off and notched out on each end for the paracord, our next step is going to be coming in, curving this bow outward on each side, letting that harden back up and to give us our recurve for stringing it up and pulling back against that to add to the tension and give it much more spring for each shot. What I did next is I measured out 6.5 inches from the bottom of this handle curve out on each direction, where I am going to curve it from that point, coming back against the grain, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. So I just took a piece of wood that was laying around and used a bowl, drew a curve, and then just drilled 3 holes out so I could put some dowel rods in, just something that I can line up the edge of that 6.5 inch mark on the PVC, heat the pipe up, and then heat the PVC bow up, and then bend it around that and hold it on that shape until it hardens back up, so I can do that on both sides of the bow to have the exact same recurve going back on that. All I did here was use a C-clamp to put a block on that line that's going to go up against the dowel rods, and then I'm going to put a C-clamp and another one of those pressure things or pressure wood over this, not to shape it or anything like that, just to hold it still while I heat this up and stretch it around that dowel rod curvature. So never mind this mark, I mismeasured, but this is the 6.5 inch one, so we're going to pull that 6.5 inch one to the very edge of that dowel rod, heat this up, pull it back this way. All right, let's do that. So we got that heated up, curved around those dowel rods, and we're just going to finish letting it cool down, and then we will do the exact same thing on the other end, and then we'll be getting close to ready to string it up. We'll just need to I want to offset that handle in the middle, a little far right, so my offset is to the right to make it easier for my arrow guide on my left hand. Alright, Now that we've got this shaped, I need to work on my handle here. So I will work on the handle, and then we will start stretching this bow. So what I want to do now is I want to press this handle down some, because I want to offset it a little bit so that when it sets in my left hand, I've got a guide point for my arrow to set on my hand. So I'm going to offset this down just a little bit, shape that, let that dry, and then we'll be about done with this. Alright, so now I've offset this handle to the right so that my hand fits right in there, and I can line that arrow up right above my pointer finger as a guide. Alright, now we just need to get this thing strung up. So we need to take this paracord, get a couple loops in it, and I'm just going to start off a few feet, and if it's too loose I'll loosen it up. If it's too tight I'll loosen it up. If it's too short, then I'll cut a longer string. We'll get started with this. Alright, got a couple loops. Let's get ready to string this up. Now remember, it pulls back away from the curve. Like this. Alright, so now it's time to make the arrow. I'm going to take this dowel rod and I'm going to cut it at 36 inches. We've got this cut down. Let's go ahead and get it shaped. Alright, I just used a razor to shape the end of that into a point, and this in here, we're going to put a notch in the back of that for the paracord to go into. Alright, so I put me a notch in the bottom of this for the paracord, and I just used a file to file that down. A nice notch for that cord to set in on the bow. Now I'm going to cut 3 pieces of duct tape 5 inches long so I can start making the tail fins at the back of this arrow here. And what we'll do is we'll put a piece on in 3 different angles and thirds on that, fold it back, shape off the fin, cut it out, and this thing will be about ready to shoot.
It's even Alex is very critical about any hope of anything good ever happening, and perhaps, but those of us who are genuine patriots, it just makes our job so else. You have to have very strong operational security or offset in order to make that happen. So it's not like Trump was going to ever tweet out.
I decided to go ahead and use some of this masking tape first because it's wider. So just put it on 3 sides. Doesn't matter how crazy that looks. And then I'm going to be able to do the duct tape over that because my duct tape wasn't really that wide and I wanted it to be wider fins. And then, so I'm just going to draw the shape on these, cut the shape out with the duct tape on top of it. Alright, so here we go. Super cheap, super easy arrow. Well, I cut my paracord too short for that to string that up. So rather than going back to the store, I just pulled out one of the other ones that I did so that I can show you how that works, how it shoots anyway. You see how the cuts are coming backwards. So the bow, you string it up, but you pull it back this way. Curve it backwards, which is what gives it that recurve and that snap. But here's another one that I made, and I made this one obviously with the heavier PVC. So this one has a lot more draw to it than what that one will have. But let's go ahead and go shoot it anyway. Thanks for watching, guys and gals. I really hope that my videos help y'all out. I really do just want to give whatever information that I learned, whether it be via YouTube or any other way. I just really want to help y'all out. But if you want to learn how to do things like make gasification for free energy or anything like that, water filtration, just go ahead and check out my description, man. I got links to all of that stuff that I'm